Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in this video I'll be showing you how you can design a slider interactive component for a feedback app, and I'll be showing you how you can design this from scratch. Alright, without further ado, let's design this from scratch. So I'm going to open a new Figma document, and I'm going to change the background to a dark background. And next thing I'm going to do is to bring out my artboard tool. So I'm going to press A on the keyboard, and I'm going to click on phone, and I'll select the iPhone 13 mini. And this is the iPhone 13 mini frame. I can go ahead and rename this to app/send, right? And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the frame, and I'm going to add my layout grid. I'm going to change the grid to columns, and I'm going to set the count here to 2. I'm going to set the margin to 16, and then the girth height to 8. All right, so I have my frame set up, and next thing I want to do is to put in my navigation icon, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on the resources icon, and I'll click on plugin. So here on the plugin section, I'm going to search for material symbols. So if you've not installed, or maybe you've not used the material symbol, it's going to show here. But if you've used it before, it's going to show on the recent. Like showing the recent because I've used it prior now. And for you, it's going to show here from the community. So you're going to click on it, and then you click on run. Now, once you click on run, it's going to show you the window. That's the material symbol window. And I'm going to search for arrow. I'm going to change it from outline to rounded because that's the style I want to use for my icon. And I'm going to change the weight to 300. And this is the icon that I would like to use. The one going back. Let's see, did I miss it? This one. So I'm going to click on it, and it's going to add that icon for me. So I'm going to set it somewhere around here. Now, let me just show you this. Usually on Figma, let me zoom in a bit. On Figma, when you add icons like this and you drag them inside of the frame, it's not always inside of the frame, right? If I move this frame outside, you can see the icon is still here. Now, how do we correct this? Well, usually what I do is I'm going to drag it outside of the frame, and I'm going to drag it back inside of the frame. Or I'll just press Command X on the keyboard. I'll click on the frame, and then I'll press Command V. So that way it's going to paste that icon or that element inside of the frame. Now, next thing I want to do is to make sure that it's aligned. It's actually on my margin. And I'm going to check holding Option or Alt on the keyboard if you're using the Windows. And the distance at the top, I want it to be 48. This is good. And next I want to do is to bring in my text. So I'm going to say send money to, right? I'm going to set this to 24. Seems 24, it's way too much, right? But I'm going to use 20. Let me just use 20. And then I'm going to change this to clash glue text. You can then, let me just update this because it looks a little bit tiny now. And I'm going to change this to medium. So whatever font you want to use, you can use it. But for this design, I would like to use this font. And I'm going to set the distance here to 16. Now, one way I can know the distance between these two elements is having these elements selected. And I'm going to hold Alt on the keyboard or Option on the keyboard if you're using the Windows. And I will hover on the other element I want to know the distance from. I can see here, it's showing me the distance here is 16, right? And the distance here on the margin here is 16 as well, right? So when you hold Alt and hover on that element or whatever place you want to know the distance, I'm just going to show you the numbers in red. Now I want to draw my rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here, maybe of size 43, right? And this is going to be for my avatar. And next thing I want to do is to bring in my my avatar or whatever picture I'm going to use. Now, I don't want to use a circle. Like for most designers, they're going to use a circle and they'll max it. But I don't want to go through the stress of maxing an image inside of the circle. So I'll just prefer to use a frame instead. And I'm going to press F on the keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and draw a frame of size, let's say 32. 32 is great. And I'm going to make it all round. Like I'm going to make the corners to be all rounded by giving it a 1000. There's a value here, 1000. I'm going to set a background color so that way I know exactly how it looks. I'm going to put it right inside here. I can check out the distance. Distance here could be, let's say 8. So there's a word where I need to increase this element. So let's see 46. I need to add more 2. So I'm going to make it 48. So So that we have 8 on all sides. And I'm going to add my text here. I'm going to say Alex. That's the username. I can just call this username, right? Just being generic. And I'm going to set this text to be 14. It's going to be regular. And I'm going to put it somewhere around here. The distance can be 4. I need to expand this and let the distance between this to be 8, which is great. I can go ahead and make this all rounded. I can make it to be all rounded, right? Or I can make it to be not all rounded, maybe around 16. And then I'm going to make this to be, I'm going to make the corner to be like the corners radius to be more smooth. So you can see it looks a little bit more smooth. I can go ahead with this style for my corner radius. So we have this frame. This will be for our image. Okay, this I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this element so I can use it for my plus icon. And I can set the distance here to be 16, which is great. And I'm going to make this to be 48 as well. Yeah, 48 looks good. And then I'm going to bring in my icon. So I'll go to the resources icons. I'm going to click on the resources icon, click on the material symbol. I'm going to click on run. I'm going to type in plus here in the search box. And I'm going to change this 300 and I'm going to make it all rounded. So that's my icon style. And I'm going to close this. I can place this right here. So you can see it's not right inside of my frame yet. So I'll just go ahead and Ctrl X, copy it, cut it out, and I'll place it right inside. So that way I can now check if it's properly aligned, which is this. And I can go ahead and frame this. So I'm going to frame it and I'm going to call this add user. Okay, so I have those icons actually, this first set of the design actually placed. And next thing I'm going to do is to bring in my text, right? So this is the point where we're going to build our interactive component. And the key thing is we are going to add our text, right? Going back to this design, we're going to add this text, that is this text that we're seeing here, this one. We're going to add it and we're going to add this slider. We're going to be at this component right now at this point. So going back to my design and I'm going to do it somewhere outside here. I'm going to add a text. I'm going to call this, I'm going to say 0 USD. So I prefer to put the USD on a separate side. I don't want to put it together with this text. I'm going to duplicate this one. I'm going to say USD, right? For whatever currency I want to use, I can just put in the text there. And I would like to make the size of this text to be 48. Yeah, 48 looks big, but yeah, it's not something I would want to use. So I'm going to use distance here to be 8, which is great. So that if we put it somewhere around here, maybe change the text color to maybe 10. Yeah, so it's cool. 48 is great. And I'll just go ahead and also update this to make it medium, right? And one thing I could do, I think this is good, medium, maybe this could be regular. Yeah, just for visual hierarchy. I'll go ahead and highlight both of them. The distance needs to be 8. Highlight both of them, and then I'm going to use the auto layout shift A to make it a frame. And I'm going to call this maybe text or currency. Yeah, call this figure or something. I'm going to use small letter figure. Right, I'm going to duplicate this. And I'll set the distance between here, this element to be 8. And I'm going to call this 5. This will be 5. This will be 10. I'll just go ahead and just keep duplicating this. I'm going to call this 20. This will be 50. We're going to do the 500. This will be 100. So some 200, and I'll just go ahead and speed this up. All right, so we have all our figures, right? I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of it, and I'm going to align it to be at the center like this. And I'm not going to use Shift A to make it an auto layout. As decided to be an auto layout. Now I will be able to achieve, or we will be able to achieve what we want to do. So what we're going to do is to right click on it, and we're going to say frame selection, and we're going to call this counter, right? So this is going to be our counter. And once we do this, not watch, if I want to make this to if I want to hide other text below it or inside of this frame, the counter frame, it's not going to work because we've not yet checkbox the clip content. So once you click on checkbox this clip content, I'll be able to hide the other figures like this, right? And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one. So this will be the one that has, this will be from 0 to 500, right? And once I click on this, I'm going to highlight, I'm going to press Command A on the keyboard. It's going to highlight all other elements as inside of the counter. Remember we did for other figures like for 50, 20s and the rest, right? I'm going to use Shift A, Shift Radar, Shift, and I'll press the up arrow key on the keyboard to make it move faster till we get to 500, right? So this is good. We are 500 and we have our this is for the first component, this will be for the second component, right? And next thing I want to do is to bring in our slider. So I'm going to go ahead and use this frame to draw a slider. I'm going to draw a slider of size, a rectangle rather, of size 18, and I'll make the edges to be rounded. And this will be I'm going to call this base or slider base. I'm going to duplicate this, Command D, and I'll call this slider top. I'm naming it so I know exactly what frame or what element that I'm using here, and also like the colors I'm going to apply to it as well. I'm going to reduce the size to 18, so it's going to be 18, which is great. And next thing I want to do is to bring in my slider handle. So I'm going to draw a circle of size 32 or 36, just make it 36 here. I'm going to give it a shadow, a blur of, let's say, 18, and the background color 20. And I'm going to set the color here to white. And this color, I can just go ahead and update this color, probably use whatever color that I like, maybe blue or purple, right? Maybe something around this color. Maybe this color per se, or probably blue color as well. This is more like a daily mark. So just to make sure that we are on the right track, I'll just go to colors, the CO, just to get a good color that we can use for this UI. And you can feel free to check out this platform. I'm going to add the link also in the description. All right, so I can go ahead and generate color by just pressing space on the keyboard for it to generate colors for me. I'm looking for a nice color that I can use. Okay, let me just go ahead and copy this blue color. So once I click on it, I can copy this, go out to Figma, and I can apply it by changing this to the hex. Yeah, so we have our color, right? So I'm going to bring in my my scroll handle here, and I'm going to call this scroll handle, right? So remember, we'll have our slider, base, top, and I can go ahead and group all of this, Command G on the keyboard, and I'm going to call this slider bar, right? So we have this set up. Just to confirm everything is starting from the base. Great. All right, so we have this component. I can bring it out here, right under this guy. Yeah, something like this. So the distance, can just knock out the distance here, which is good. Align it properly, and I can do the same thing here. Hold Alt and drag it down. I can reposition these elements here, align it properly as well. And I'm going to move this element right to the other side of the screen. So before I do that, I'm I'm going to add an opacity to this text, to this slider. I'm going to make this white, pure white, and I'll give it an opacity of, let's say, 20% or 30%, and 30%, which is great. And I can move this to the very edge here, and also move this as well to the very edge. So that way this will be our handle, like when the user scroll. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of this. Right click, make it a frame. Let's click on frame selection. And I'm going to call this interactive slider dash 0. And the same thing, I'm going to highlight all of this. Right click on it, frame selection. And I'm going to call this interactive slider dash 500, right? All right, so we have this done, and I can just go ahead and prototype this element. Before we go ahead, I'm going to make this a set of components. So I'm going to highlight all of it. I'm going to go here at the top here, click where you have components, and I'll click on create component set. So once I click on component set, I can go ahead and edit this name, and I can call this slider. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this element, holding Option on the keyboard. I'm going to place it somewhere around here, and I'm going to set the distance here to 64, which is great. Or I can just go ahead and just update this color, this particular one, to black, and then set the opacity to 30%, which will still work for me. So I'll just do the same thing here. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to locate my slider base, and I can update this to the black color as well. All right, so I haven't done that. Next thing I'm going to do is to put in the maximum. So on the UI we have a maximum. So I'm going to say max, right? I'm going to call this 500. So maximum 500, and I'm going to set the text to 14, somewhere around here. Set the distance to 16, which is great. We can use 14 as a distance, as a text size, or we can use 16. Let's see how 16 will text. 16 is great, so we just go with 16. And it's going to be a little bit faded, not so visible. I think 8A is great, 16 is good, and I can go ahead and create the next set of design, which is the pay from, and then add all this other call to action. So the next thing I'm going to do is to draw a rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here. Our size 48. Let's say 48 here as a height, and I'm going to give this a corner radius of 16. Let's just make sure that this is 48. 16 is a bit too much. Let's see the one I use here. I use 16 as well. Rounded edges, let's see. So I'm going to round the edges. Let me confirm this one as well. Okay, all edges all rounded, and I can expand this guy a little bit. 64, and I'm going to say I'm going to add the text for that. I'm going to say pay from, probably the wallet. This is going to be like the wallet that the user will be paying from, and distance will be 16, which is great. And I'm going to go ahead and add this, and I'm going to align this to the right, and I'm going to give this the status 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to write enter any random number. And next I'm going to do, I'm going to add an arrow. So I'm going to go to my resources icon, I'm going to click on run, and I'm going to type arrow here, set the weights to 300, and I will look for an arrow pointing down. This one is great, and I'm going to drag it outside and then drag it inside, so that way it's going to be inside of the frame. And I can see the blue highlight around the frame. It means that the element, this icon, is now inside of my frame. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight both of this, hold press Shift A on the keyboard so it's properly aligned, and center it well here with the auto layout alignment too. And I'm going to make the distance here to be 16. Remember, holding Option on the keyboard to see the distance between the elements, and distance at the top is not accurate, so I'll make sure that I fix that as well. So 2020 is great. This is 2022. Let me align it one more time. Everything looks perfect. All right. So I have this here, and I can go ahead and add the next part of the design, which is note. So I'm going to say add, and we have some cards. I'm going to go ahead and drag this. Hold Alt and drag it down. I'm going to ungroup it, delete this icon. I'll duplicate this text. I'm going to call this notes, and I'll change the font weight to medium. Let me just leave it at regular. Yeah. I'll expand this a little bit. It's maybe like 64. And maybe one thing that can help me is to know the distance between these elements. I can say, let's use 12 as the distance between them, right? And I can make this an auto layout. 16 is great. Let me align this properly with this element. Oh, we have it to be 2. I'll just go ahead and delete 1 here. 16 is great, and I can duplicate this one. And I'm going to call this image. The next will be sticker. We can make this more fun by adding some kind of emoji to our UI. The next will be give. We'll bring this capital letter. Right, so we have all these elements in. We can make this more fun by adding an emoji, like a note emoji, image emoji, but that'll be an overkill. But to just keep it the way it is, real simple. And the next is my call to action button. So I'm going to bring in this element here. I'm going to say a call to action button is confirm, and pay. All right, so having done that, I'm going to go ahead and expand this button a bit. And I'll align this text properly here. And I'm going to set this to medium, which is great. Or we can just make it to be the light theme, and I think we agree with that. So just go ahead and turn off my layer grade. Next I'm going to do is to add an avatar. So I'm going to go to any website. Probably I'm going to go to Pixel. I'm going to look for a headshot. So I'm going to say headshot. And looking for a good headshot to use here. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to copy the image. I'm going to go back to Figma, and I'm going to paste that image right here, Command V. So once I do that, I'm going to paste the image inside of that frame. I'm going to hold Option on the keyboard and Shift. Then I'll click on this anchor point and drag it inside. Yeah, then I can zoom in to see what I'm doing. I'm going to drag it one more time, and then I can reposition it the way I want. So I've succeeded in adding the image, and I can go ahead and reduce, make this a little bit more, that's a grade to be a little bit more fainted. I can add an outline stroke, and also do the same thing, faded stroke. I can make it to be outside instead. I think inside looks a little bit more better off. Okay, something like this. Probably going to give it a 0.5, so it's not so visible. Yeah. Or just take it out and then give the image an outline instead. Yeah, so it's gonna be the blue color. All right, so I'll just go ahead and name this Jennifer, and I have to adjust the distance because it's way too much. I just need, let's see, one more step. I need one more, so I'm going to add 2 here. So it's 8 correct. So the distance here should be 16. And I'm going to make this an outline instead. So I'm going to add a stroke to this. Like this one, undo. I'll double click on this one. as the rectangle here. This is the rectangle. I'm going to add a stroke, and I'll take out the feel of this from this, and I think this is good. I feel this is a little bit too much. If I use a blue fill, maybe something like this will do, and this will be light gray. And I'll set this to be gray text. Right, this will be medium, and this task needs to be 16. Probably use FA. If I give it a stroke, how will it look like? Maybe a stroke, a linear stroke. And this other one, we're going to use the blue color. I'm going to highlight all of it, and I'm going to attach the or add the blue color to this one and give it an opacity of maybe 12%, and the text, this one will have the blue color, so there's a need for me to reduce the opacity some more. Maybe 6% is great. All right, so the next thing I want to do is to update the color here, so that way it's not looking quite different from the style or the color style we're using here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'll click on go to main component, and I'm going to update this here, so that way it's updated on the main design as well. So I'm going to make this 15%. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, so we can make, or can just make it 10%. I think 10% is okay. Yeah, 10% is great. And I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to double click, and I'll use my layer panel to locate the slider base. So remember, we're updating this color to the slider base, and I can also update this to 10% as well. Okay, having done that, the next thing I'm going to do is update this color. So we're going to use our primary color, which is the blue color, and I'll update the text color here to white. So we're good to go with our design. All right, very simple. And then the main thing is to see how these components work. And that'll be the next part of this tutorial, which is the prototyping stage. So the next thing we're going to do is to go to prototype mode, and we are prototyping this component, the slider component, and I'm going to double click on this. So on the scroll handle, I'm going to click on the scroll handle here, and I'm going to link it to this next component, and I'll change it from on tap to on drag, and I'm going to change this from move into smart animation, so that way it can interact, to just look at some kind of, there's a continuity with the transition. And I'm going to change this to smart animation is correct. I'm going to change this to linear, and I'll do the same thing. I'm going to double click on this, click again, and I'll link this to this component, and it changes from on tap to drag, and automatically Figma just recognizes the last animation that I used. Right, so that way we can go back to see how our design will look on prototype. So I'm going to click on the frame, and I'll click on the play button to play this. So let's give it a few seconds for it to load. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this, so you can see we're able to achieve our smooth animation on this. Feel free to use these components to create your own design, whatever design you're working on that you want to use this component for. I'm going to drop my Twitter handle. You can tag me on Twitter and say, hey, look at what I created with the component that you shared. I'll be happy to share your work as well. All right, that brings me to the very end of this tutorial. Feel free to share this with a friend if you found this video very helpful. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this a thumbs up. And that's all from my end. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.